Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Collective live training. This is our May workshop, and I'm super excited to talk about podcast marketing and promo strategies. I'm going to wait about 60 seconds. I know I'm tardy for the party, y'all. Bedtime was wild around here tonight. Okay. So I'm going to wait just a couple seconds, give some people an opportunity to hop on. If you can hear me and see me, let me know in the comments, in the chat, where you are tuning in live from. I like to do a quick roll call and just see where people are watching from. I'm in ATL and I'm feeling like the time switched again or something. It is getting dark so late, and it's getting early. It's getting light outside super early. So it's like 8:07 and it's still pretty bright outside. It's wild. But tonight we are talking about marketing and promo. And let me just tell y'all, hey, Demetria, when I started to prepare for tonight's training, I was only supposed to come up with my top five. That's like my formats, I guess, that I'm using for these trainings is like the top five. But I couldn't just stop at five. I literally have 10, my top 10 marketing and promo tips. So what I decided, because these trainings are literally only supposed to be 30-minute sessions, we're going to go through, excuse me, the first five, and then the second five will be an episode on the private podcast. Now, if y'all have not started tapping into our private podcast yet, definitely make sure you check it out. When you log into the collective, it is there on the feed, the link to it. It's also in pretty much all of the emails that I've sent to y'all. There's a cover art, and if you click that cover art, it'll take you to the private podcast. All of these training replays are on the private podcast, along with some additional audio lessons. So get into it. Now, tonight's topic of conversation is marketing and promo. Um, we are specifically talking about how you can build your audience, which truly is the name of the game when it comes to podcasting. I've mentioned this several times in the past. The only way that you can get sponsors, or not even, I'm sorry, I shouldn't even say that. Truly, the only way that you can monetize your show, which is basically everyone's goal, is by having an audience. It's by having listeners. Whether you want to monetize your show through sponsorships, meaning someone is going to pay you to promote their business on your podcast, or you want to monetize your show just by like making sales, getting clients, you have to have people listening in order for you to do that. And so today's conversation around marketing is going to help you position yourself to be able to monetize your show, because in order to monetize it, you have to market it so that people know about it. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into 5 marketing and promotional strategies that I currently use consistently to market and promote the podcast that I host and produce. So first things first, this is probably going to seem like ABC 1, 2, 3, but in order for you to even start planning for your podcast marketing, you have to get clear on your audience. You want to do your due diligence, do as much research as you can to identify who your audience truly is. Now, if you just started your podcast, like you are brand new, and you don't have a lot of followers like on social media, or you don't have a huge audience as far as your podcast listeners, then you might be doing research on who you think, based on your topics, based on your talking points. You might be coming up with who you believe your target audience is going to be, versus if you already have 10, 20 episodes out, you get, feedback from your listeners, and you are able to pretty much pinpoint who your audience is. Either way, you're either doing some research to figure it out, or you're still pretty much doing research and looking at your data and analytics to try to figure out who your audience is. The reason why this is number one and why it's so important for you to start here is because if you don't first identify who your audience is, you're going to be clueless when it comes to where to find your audience. And in order for you to market your podcast, you got to know where your people are. I know that everybody thinks that like Instagram is the end all be all, but there are several other social media, and not, I don't even want to just say social media. There are several other platforms, online platforms that you can use to market your podcast. So I definitely want you to think beyond Instagram, especially if you have an audio only podcast, then Instagram is probably not the best place for you to market your podcast anyway. So you want to get really, really like hone in on who you are talking to so that you can figure out, well, where are these people? So if I have come to the conclusion that the majority of the people that are listening to the Girl Stop Playing podcast are between 35 and 40. They live in metropolitan cities and they like to read these particular blogs. They like to visit these particular websites. They like to travel to these types of destinations. They like to hang out on these particular platforms. The person that is hanging out on a website like Reddit is going to be different from your person that's on YouTube. It's going to be different from your person that's finding you on TikTok. So you want to really, really figure out who you are talking to, where that person is, so that you can go where they already are to market. You don't want to try to, like, you want to find people where they are. That's the goal. Find people where they are and market your show to them. Okay. So number one, you got to know your audience before you even start coming up with a marketing plan. Once you've done your due diligence and you are pretty confident in who you are talking to, I want to encourage you to leverage multiple platforms. Okay. And this is really your way to work smarter and not harder. So if you have a video show, for example, the effort and energy that it takes you to edit those videos, to create clips from those videos, it literally is outrageous if you go through all of that trouble and then you don't repurpose those clips. So I am encouraging you to leverage multiple platforms in your marketing strategy. So what does that look like? Well, when we create video clips, this is just one example, but when we create video clips for our podcast, those video clips are published on several platforms. They're published on Instagram, they're published on YouTube, they are published on TikTok, and then the way that we publish them, we do multiple posts on multiple platforms. So if Facebook and Instagram and TikTok have a feed and a story, we're making sure that we cover both. How many of y'all know that? And I think I'm just a special case. I don't watch people's stories on Instagram. That's just not where I hang out. My husband, on the other hand, he is always in somebody's stories. And because he's always in somebody's stories, he be knowing what's going on with everybody. He gives me updates on everybody because he watches people's stories. There is a whole demographic of people that watch stories. Okay. That, like, that's where they spend their time. They go from story, it switches to the next person, then it switches to the next person. And they're literally just spending their time going from story to story. Me, on the other hand, I'm spending my time like this. I'm scrolling. So to um, keep you from missing out on your people, you want to make sure you are publishing your content in multiple places. Okay. On Facebook, those videos can be published in your Facebook group. It can be published on your fan page. It can be published on your personal profile. It can be published in other people's groups. So you definitely want to make sure you're leveraging multiple platforms. And I'm talking about one piece of content that you can place on several platforms. And if you are using AI to truly work smarter and not harder, I sent you all a recommendation for one of my favorite AI platforms. This is so grainy. I'm sorry, y'all. It is like really bothering me how blurry this looks. I sent y'all the link to try an AI platform called Get Munch. And Get Munch will allow you to select like the format of the clips. It's a artificial intelligence clip creator. So you will basically upload the full length video of your episode, and then it'll chop it up into clips based on keywords. It'll give you SEO keywords. It'll give you hashtags. It'll give you sample captions. Like, it does all of this. But another thing that it does is it allows you to choose the format. So you can choose whether you want them to make your clips into YouTube dimensions, Instagram post dimensions, Instagram story dimensions. Like, it will allow you to repurpose. So if you are leveraging tools, and especially if you're leveraging AI, then you can absolutely market your podcast on multiple platforms without it taking a whole lot of time. The other thing that we have started doing is reruns. I call it my rerun strategy. So if y'all follow my personal page on Instagram at Coriel, randomly throughout the day, basically every single day, there are rerun episodes of my podcast playing on my Instagram Live. The way that I'm able to do that is through StreamYard. So if you go back to, I think it was maybe 2 emails ago, I sent y'all a link if you want to try StreamYard. And there's probably a link somewhere over here. I don't know where, but this is StreamYard that I'm using right now. So there's probably some type of like try now, click here, sign up link somewhere. But this is the platform that I use to be able to live stream my episodes. Live streaming your episodes is a way to capture the attention of people who may not have heard about your podcast. They may already subscribe, but they haven't seen this episode. Maybe they've heard of your podcast, but they haven't had the opportunity to go to YouTube or go to a podcast platform to watch or listen. And so by doing this rerun strategy, you're literally able to use this same content that you've already produced, you've already, spent your time, your effort, and your energy in creating, and you can now leverage that to get the word out about your podcast. So the rerun strategy is definitely one way. And I do the reruns through StreamYard. I do them on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, even LinkedIn, and you can do it simultaneously. So it can literally stream on all of those platforms at the same time. So that is absolutely another way for you to market your podcast. The thing, though, that I want you to keep in mind, which we're not going to talk about this tonight, but this will be one of the tips that I share on the private podcast, is understanding that when you only market your podcast on social apps like Instagram, the majority of the people, because you are promoting the video episode, the majority of the people who find your podcast on YouTube, they're going to go looking for find your podcast on Instagram, they're going to go to YouTube to watch the video. And so it's getting a little tricky, which is part of the reason why there's so much confusion with whether or not you have to have a video element in order to be considered a podcast. Um, and so you definitely want to make sure you are being intentional about sharing the link specifically to the podcast platforms. Okay. Because those are two different conversations. YouTube numbers is one thing, podcast numbers is something totally different. Okay. So that's just a quick note. So, number one, you got to know your audience so that you can know where to market. Because if you figure out that your audience is Gen Z, you definitely are not going to want to market your podcast on Facebook, right? That's probably just not the smartest thing to do. Whereas if you find out that your audience is Gen X, then Facebook would be an appropriate place to market. And not to say that it's not appropriate, but that is not where you want to put all of your effort and your energy. That's probably not the platform that you want to prioritize. So I'm not saying that you should not have a presence on across platforms, but what I'm saying is that you want to prioritize the platform where your people actually hang out. So you got to do a little bit of research to figure out who your people are and then where you can find them. So that's number one. Number two, you want to make sure you are leveraging multiple platforms and using them in different ways. So, depending on how you're able to share your content, whether it's a feed post, a video story, a reel, whatever, a live broadcast, where you're doing your reruns, you want to make sure you are giving people multiple opportunities to come in contact with your content. Okay, so that's number two. My third marketing strategy is optimizing your show description as well as your show notes. And so this is where I want to kind of talk. This is going to be like a little lightweight audit, Demetria. I want to talk just one quick tip, because I looked at hold on, let me pull it up. Where is it? I had it. Oh, here it is. So I pulled up your, since you submitted for the hot seat. We're not doing a hot seat tonight, Demetria, but I did look at your podcast. So I did want to mention this while we are talking about SEO, because one of the things, and I have not had a chance to listen to any of your episodes, so I want to be clear on that. I haven't listened. I did watch the clips from Instagram, but I haven't listened yet. But when I went to your red circle, first of all, I love your show notes format. That is exactly what it should be. Let me actually share my screen. That would help. Okay, so now you should be able to see your red circle link. So what we are talking about for number 3 is optimizing your show notes and your description. One of the things that just so many people fail to consider is that your podcast can be found by people who have never heard of you or never heard of it, but that are just Googling. They're just searching for things on Google. They're searching for things anywhere on the internet. I mean, we say Google just like Google's the only option, but whether they're using Bing, Google, Yahoo, Safari, whatever they're using, whenever people search, type in words into a search engine, they have the opportunity to come across your podcast episodes if you use SEO keywords. So this is the biggest thing that I want to point out, but you are doing an amazing job at this already. Demetria, and you probably didn't even realize it, or maybe you did. So this is actually a really great example of how you can put in some of these SEO friendly keywords so that you are not only relying on people to like see a clip on social media to be able to, come and subscribe to the podcast. So just by, and I'm going to read this blurb really quick, and then I'm going to pull out what I believe would be some pretty strong SEO keywords that people might be searching for. Okay. And then I'm going to give y'all a resource or a tool that you can actually use to do some SEO research so that you can make sure that your show notes, which is what we're looking at right now, and then your show description, which is what this is right here on this side, are full of SEO friendly keywords. Okay. So Dr. D and Bree Bree discuss the benefits of cannabis for stress relief and balanced mood. Join in as they share their personal experiences and explore different cannabinoids like CBD, CBG, and THC that may help with mental health issues. The hosts also highlight the impact of the pandemic on mental health and the importance of a holistic approach to wellness. They offer practical advice on cannabis tracking for optimal benefit and use. Okay, so hands down, anybody that types in, or these are the terms that I can pull out of here that I believe, if someone is searching for this, you have an opportunity to be found. So and we're not just talking about words. I know I said SEO keyword, but it really is a phrase that we're looking for. And we're thinking about different phrases, key phrases that we can plug into our description, our show description, as well as our podcast episode notes, so that when people are searching for those specific phrases, your podcast shows up for them and you have the potential of getting new subscribers. So some of the keywords that I would pull out of here are benefits of cannabis, cannabis for stress relief, um, uh, cannabinoids, um, THC and mental health, holistic approach to wellness, and then impact of the pandemic on mental health. That's a really long one, but I would like pull all of those out and then do research on those using a website like key search. Keysearch.com is one, and if you don't want to use key search, you can Google key search alternatives and pick whichever one you do want to use. But using a website like this will allow you to type in an SEO keyword that you think people are searching about related to your episode or related to your podcast, and then it ranks those keywords. So it'll tell you whether or not this is a strong keyword that you should use, or whether or not like it's a weak keyword. Too many people are using it. You'll never be found. Like, it gives you the breakdown of keywords. But that is what I would definitely that is number three, and that is one of the things that I wanted to pull out to mention when I looked at your show, Demetria. And then the other thing is links. So ensuring that you are um, intentionally including the links that you want people to actually visit. So as you can see, um, when you are first getting started and you are working on building up your audience, this is the way that you're going to be able to get paid. So sponsors, Cannabis Coaching Institute. I am assuming, you can correct me in the chat if I'm wrong, Demetria, that this is your business, so that you are the sponsor. If not, let me know. But if you are, then that's definitely something that a lot of people start out doing, is that their existing business just becomes their first sponsor. So that's a way that you can consistently promote your existing business and get, potential clients by featuring yourself as the sponsor of the episode. And that would just be like, this week's episode is brought to you by Cannabis Coaching Institute. So, that's a way that you can verbally acknowledge your sponsors, whether it's you or another sponsor, or you can add it in the show notes like you did here. And I know you specifically asked about or wanted to know about monetization, Demetria, but honestly, between you intentionally promoting your like standalone business outside of the podcast, that's one way to monetize. You creating digital products that are related to your standalone business is another way, and then you having physical products. So I don't know what your CBD business is, like what your products are, but those are, ways that you can monetize. A lot of people, again, only want to figure out, well, how can I get sponsors to just give me free money? I know that it really seems like these sponsors are just handing out checks left and right, but they're not. Okay. And so that you don't want to put all your eggs in that basket. And even once you have the numbers, and I'm not just talking about you, Demetria, but everybody. Once you do have the numbers, sponsors are not, what's the word I'm looking for? They're just not the end all be all. So you never want to be dependent on one stream. Okay. So while we are building up the audience and increasing the subscribers and the download numbers so that you will be able to um, meet that minimum download threshold and be able to, get into the red circle advertising program. In the meantime, like, I don't even want that to be like stressing you out. I would really encourage you to figure out how you can be intentional about mentioning your products or your services that you have to monetize. Okay. So don't feel like you are talking about yourself too much. Like, this is your opportunity to shamelessly plug whatever it is that you sell. So that's the first way that you should be or that you could be monetizing your show. Okay. So let me move right along to number 4. Oh, that's the school you went to. Okay, got you. Got you. Okay. Well, yeah, as long as you have an affiliate, because I saw you had like a coupon code, as long as you are, be able to monetize whatever that sponsorship is, that's totally fine. As long as it comes back to you, it's cool. Number 4, repurpose your podcast episodes into blog posts. Repurpose your podcast episodes into blog posts. So, believe it or not, blogs are definitely, I don't even want to say they're coming back, but they're regaining popularity, I guess. Blogs are popping. And if you are able to, when we talk about sponsors, if you're able to go to a sponsor and say, I not only have this podcast as a media platform, but I also have this website that gets, X number of website visitors each month, that's even a stronger case for a sponsor to want to support your show. So you can use AI tools. One of the best ones that will transcribe your your podcast episode into blog content is called Cast Magic. And I'm going to type it Cast Magic. And if you have the productivity guide, that freebie, that free productivity guide, if you've seen it, then you should have links to all of these platforms and programs that I recommend. So that is number 4. Repurpose your content into blog posts. Why do you want to do that? Because you are giving yourself an even greater opportunity to be found by a random stranger on the internet. Your goal is to be found by random strangers on the internet. That's the only way that we are going to ever be able to stop relying on our followers. Okay. It's so frustrating to expect a million podcast downloads from 10,000 people that are following you. Like that's the quickest way to just burn yourself out and get frustrated. So you want to open yourself up to the opportunity to connecting with new people. You don't want to just be relying on your existing audience. And so one of the best ways for you to connect with new people is by creating a blog and then doing what I just told y'all in my last tip when it comes to SEO, doing your research to include to make sure that the blogs that you write include those SEO keywords so that when people are typing in those keywords, your blog has the opportunity to come up. The whole goal and SEO, I'm not even about to sit here and act like I'm an SEO expert. Okay. I pay for help when it comes to SEO. But one thing that I do know is that you want to try to think of what people are typing into Google. Like, what would somebody be typing into Google for it to make sense for this blog post to come up or for this podcast episode to come up? So, if you're talking about, cannabis for mental health, what is something that someone who needs to listen to this episode might be searching in Google? That is what you're trying to figure out. That's the goal. What are they going to be typing in? Because you can use titles that are like based on your brand. Like for example, one of your episodes, Demetria says, "Can a convo?" and then the basics. I'm all about names. I'm all about branding. I love Can a convo, Can of coins, Can a closet, Can of cures. I love all of that. But 9 times out of 10, people are not necessarily searching in Google, Can a convo, right? That's not something that they're searching for, but they might be searching for, will CBD help me with stress, or CBD stress relief, CBD and wellness, you know, cannabis and stress relief. Like you want to put yourself in the mind of your listener, your audience, and really think about what might he or she be typing into Google that I could potentially come up for. Yep, keep it simple. Now listen, I'm sorry. Let me also say this. I'm not saying that you can't use branded phrases or titles. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that you want to make sure that you are being intentional about the episode titles and the description, the show notes. Okay. So what I do, because I know that this matters, but I know that like SEO friendly wording is not like the sexiest, it ain't the cutest, like it's not that cool. What I do for my video episodes, I don't do this for my audio, but for my video episodes, I make sure the title is SEO friendly, and then like whatever I want to call the episode that's like cute and fun and cool, I'll put that on the thumbnail. But when it comes to my podcast episodes, like the audio episodes, I'm strictly going with what I think people, are going to be searching for, or what I think would catch the attention of new people. Okay. That's number 4. Repurpose your episodes into blog posts. And then last but not least, if you have a website for another business or a blog site, any website, add a podcast page onto your existing website. Give it its own dedicated page. The reason that you want to give it its own dedicated page, first of all, it's just going to make your website visitors, it's going to make their experience on your website easier. Like if they're looking for your podcast, it's right there in the menu, podcast. They can click on it. It's also going to add to that SEO. So the more opportunities that people have to find you on the internet, the better. So if they're typing into Google CBD for my dog, whatever, I don't know. I just made that up. But if they're typing that into Google and you have a podcast on Apple, you got a podcast on Spotify, your podcast is on iHeart, you have a blog post, you got an Instagram. The more opportunities, the more platforms you have for people to be able to find you, the more likely they're actually going to find you. So you do not want to assume that everybody's going to find you on Instagram. Okay. I know that that is where the majority of people like to focus their time and energy between Instagram and TikTok, but everybody's not on Instagram and TikTok, believe it or not. There are truly some people who are scrolling through Reddit to find recommendations. There are truly some people who are like Facebook fanatics, okay? And they are spending all of their time in these Facebook groups. So you want to make sure you are giving yourself an opportunity to be found, and you also want to make sure you're giving yourself an opportunity to find your people. Okay. It is my prayer that this was helpful, that y'all are not feeling overwhelmed. This is not information overload, but hopefully you got a lot of strategies and some next steps so that you can figure out how to market and promote your podcast. The last thing that I want to leave you with is that you want to ensure that you are spending just as much, if not more time, marketing your podcast episodes as you are spending creating, recording, editing your podcast episodes. Okay. That's hustling backwards. If you put all of your time and effort and attention into creating the thing, and then you don't tell anybody about the thing, then you just wasted your time creating that thing. Okay. So keep that in your mind as you are working on your time management, as you are figuring out how you're going to do all of the things that you need to do for your podcast. I know that it is a lot, trust me, and I know that it can be overwhelming. So you want to make sure you are being intentional about spending just as much, if not more time, marketing and telling people about your podcast as you are recording and producing your podcast. Okay. I love y'all. Again, I hope this was helpful. I will be putting part 2 of the marketing training on the Will Pod for Pay private podcast. As always, if you have any questions that were not answered tonight, you have access to unlimited Q&A inside of the Kollective. Inside of the last email that you received was the login link. If you are having trouble accessing your account, click that link and it should take you there. Or if it still doesn't work, feel free to send us an email and we will get it figured out. Love y'all. Thank you for tapping in, and I'll catch you next time.